Sarah took a deep breath as she stepped off the transport ship. The air felt thin and sweet in her lungs. She looked around with wide eyes, taking in the sights of her new home for the next 4 years. The Galactic Federation Academy. The spaceport bustled with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved about, their colorful bodies and strange appendages making Sarah feel small and plain in comparison. Some had tentacles, others had multiple eyes, and a few seemed to float rather than walk. "Welcome, new students," a cheery voice called out. Sarah turned to see a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms waving at the group of new arrivals. "I am Orientation Guide Xinlua. Please follow me to the registration area." Sarah hefted her backpack and fell in line with the other students. As they walked, she couldn't help but notice the strange looks she was getting. Some aliens whispered to each other, pointing at her when they thought she wasn't looking. Others gave her a wide berth, as if afraid to get too close. "What's their problem?" Sarah muttered to herself. She checked her shirt, wondering if she had spilled something during the journey. Everything looked fine. The registration area was a large domed building with holographic signs floating in the air. Sarah joined the queue for non-standard atmospheric species. As she waited, she overheard snippets of conversation from the aliens around her. "Is that a Deathworlder? Can't be. They wouldn't let one of those here. Look at its dense bone structure. It must be." Sarah frowned. She had no idea what a Deathworlder was, but it didn't sound like a compliment. When it was finally her turn, she stepped up to the registration desk. The alien behind the desk, a creature that looked like a cross between a caterpillar and a tree, recoiled slightly. "Species?" it asked, its voice a soft, rustling sound. "Human," Sarah replied. The alien's branches quivered. "Oh my. We weren't expecting." "One moment, please." It tapped furiously on a holographic screen. After a few tense minutes, a new alien approached. This one was tall and slender, with metallic skin that shimmered in the light. "Greetings, human," it said in a melodious voice. "I am Dean Zor Volta. We are honored to have you join us at the Academy." Sarah smiled, relieved to finally meet someone friendly. "Thank you, Dean Zor Volta. I'm excited to be here." The dean nodded, but Sarah couldn't help noticing a hint of worry in its glowing eyes. "Yes, well, we'll need to make some adjustments to accommodate you. Your species is quite unique." "Adjustments?" Sarah asked, confused. "I don't need anything special. I'm just here to learn like everyone else." Dean Zor Volta exchanged a look with the registration alien. Of course. But perhaps we should discuss your capabilities in private. Follow me, please." As Sarah followed the dean, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The other students watched her pass, their alien faces showing a mix of fear, awe, and curiosity. They entered a small office, and Dean Zor Volta gestured for Sarah to sit. The chair creaked ominously under her weight. "Now then," the dean said, settling behind a floating desk. "Let's talk about your educational background, your goals, and any special needs you might have." Sarah straightened up, eager to make a good impression. "Well, I graduated top of my class back on Earth. I'm really interested in xenobiology and interspecies diplomacy. As for special needs, I don't think I have any. Maybe some extra oxygen if the air gets too thin." The dean blinked its 3 eyes in rapid succession. "That's all. You don't require a reinforced living quarters. No special dietary restrictions. No gravity adjustments." Sarah shook her head, growing more confused by the minute. "No, nothing like that. Why would I need those things?" Dean Zor Volta leaned back, its metallic skin reflecting the office lights. "Fascinating. It seems you're unaware of your own unique status in the galactic community. Tell me, Sarah, what do you know about the classification of habitable planets?" "Not much," Sarah admitted. "Just that Earth is considered a Goldilocks planet. Not too hot, not too cold. The dean let out a sound that might have been a laugh. Oh, my dear, Earth is far more than that. In galactic terms, your homeworld is classified as a death world, a planet so hazardous that it's considered nearly uninhabitable by most species. Sarah's jaw dropped. What? But Earth is beautiful. We have forests and oceans, and crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous wildlife, and a host of other perils. Dean Zor Volta finished. The fact that your species not only survived but thrived in such conditions makes you rather remarkable. As the dean's words sank in, Sarah began to understand the strange reactions she'd been getting. She wasn't just another student here. In the eyes of these aliens, she was something entirely different, a creature forged in the fires of an unforgiving world. So, Sarah said slowly, "What does this mean for my time at the academy?" Dean Zor Volta's metallic lips curved into what might have been a smile. "It means, my dear, that your experience here will be unique. You may find some tasks surprisingly easy, while others struggle. But rest assured, we will do our best to provide you with a challenging and rewarding education." As Sarah left the office, her mind was reeling. She had come to the Galactic Federation Academy hoping to learn about alien life. Instead, she was about to embark on a journey that would teach her as much about herself as it would about the universe. Little did she know, her first real test was just around the corner, waiting in the most unlikely of places, gym class. Sarah's first week at the Galactic Federation Academy flew by in a blur of new faces, strange foods, and mind-bending classes. She was just starting to feel like she was getting the hang of things when she saw her schedule for the day. Extreme Environmental Adaptation. Gem class. Gym class. Sarah muttered to herself. Finally, something familiar. As she made her way to the gymnasium, Sarah noticed her alien classmates looking more nervous than usual. Some were even trembling, their various appendages shaking visibly. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked a blue, gelatinous blob that was quivering next to her. "It's Professor Zixbeda's class." The blob gurgled. "They say it's impossible. No one's ever passed." Sarah frowned. How hard could a gym class be? The gymnasium doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a cavernous space that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Parts of the room appeared to be underwater, while others glowed with intense heat. Floating platforms hovered at various heights, and what looked like a black hole spun ominously in one corner. At the center of it all stood Professor Zixbeda. The alien instructor was tall and muscular, with 4 arms, 6 eyes, and skin that shifted colors like an oil slick on water. "Welcome, students," Professor Zixbeda's voice boomed, echoing off the strange walls. "To those of you who are new, this is not your average physical education class. This is extreme environmental adaptation, where we push the limits of what your bodies can endure." Sarah felt a surge of excitement. This sounded like fun. "Today's challenge," the professor continued, "is the gravity-enhanced obstacle course. You must navigate through varying levels of gravity, from near zero to crush you into paste. Only the most adaptable will survive. Pass." A collective groan rose from the students. Sarah looked around, confused by their reaction. "Volunteers to go first?" Professor Zixbeda asked, all 6 eyes scanning the crowd. Sarah's hand shot up before she could think twice. "I'll do it." The room fell silent. Every alien eye, and some other sensory organs, turned to stare at her in disbelief. Professor Zixbeda's skin rippled with surprise. "Ah, our new Terran student. Very well. Step forward, and may the cosmic forces have mercy on you." As Sarah approached the starting line, she heard whispers behind her. "The poor thing doesn't know what she's in for. Should we stop her? This could be dangerous for a non-adaptive species." Sarah took a deep breath, pushing the doubts aside. She may be new to the galaxy, but she knew how to handle a little physical challenge. "Begin," Professor Zixbeda shouted. Sarah sprinted forward, immediately feeling the pull of increased gravity. It was like running through thick mud, but nothing she couldn't handle. She pumped her arms harder, pushing through. The first obstacle was a series of floating platforms. As she jumped, Sarah found herself almost weightless. She flailed for a moment, then remembered her zeroed training from Earth. With a few well-timed pushes, she navigated the platforms with ease. Next came a section that glowed red-hot. Sarah felt sweat beading on her forehead, but pressed on. The heat was intense, but no worse than a summer day in Death Valley. She emerged from the heat to face a pool of bubbling liquid. Without hesitation, Sarah dove in. The liquid was dense and corrosive, but her tough human skin protected her as she swam through. Finally, she approached the mini black hole. The gravitational pull was immense, threatening to tear her apart. Sarah gritted her teeth, leaned into the force, and with a burst of strength, pushed past it to the finish line. Gasping for breath, Sarah looked up to see the entire class staring at her in stunned silence. Even Professor Zixbeda's ever-changing skin had frozen in a pattern of shocked swirls. I don't believe it," the professor stammered. "You completed the course in record time. How is this possible?" Sarah shrugged, still catching her breath. It was challenging, but not impossible. Is this really that hard for everyone? Professor Zixbeda's eyes blinked in rapid succession. Hard. My dear, most students can't make it past the first gravity shift. You just casually walk through environments that would kill most species instantly. As the reality of what she'd done sank in, Sarah felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. She hadn't meant to show off. She was just doing what came naturally to her. "Well," Professor Zixbeda said, regaining composure, "it seems we may need to recalibrate our definition of extreme for you, Terran. Class, let this be a lesson in the incredible adaptability of life in our galaxy. Now, who's next?" The other students shuffled backwards, none eager to follow Sarah's impossible act. As Sarah moved to the side, still dripping with corrosive liquid and smelling faintly of ozone, she realized that her time at the Galactic Federation Academy was going to be far more interesting than she'd ever imagined. And this was just the beginning. The news of Sarah's incredible performance in Professor Zixbeda's impossible gym class spread through the Galactic Federation Academy like wildfire. By lunchtime, every student and teacher was talking about the amazing Terran who had breezed through the deadly obstacle course. Sarah sat alone in the cafeteria, poking at her food cue with a fork. She couldn't understand why everyone was making such a big deal out of it. To her, it had just been a fun morning workout. "Mind if we join you?" a voice chirped. Sarah looked up to see 3 alien students hovering near her table. One was the blue gelatinous blob from her class, another looked like a sentient crystal, and the third had the appearance of a floating cloud of gas. "Sure," Sarah said, smiling. It was the first time since she arrived that anyone had voluntarily approached her. The 3 aliens settled into their seats, their eyes, or what Sarah assumed were eyes, fixed on her with a mix of curiosity and awe. "I'm Blurg," the blob gurgled. "This is Krista." It indicated the crystalline being. "And that's gaseous clay," referring to the cloud. "Nice to meet you all," Sarah said. "I'm Sarah." "We know," Krista chimed, her voice tinkling like wind chimes. "Everyone knows who you are now. How did you do it?" Sarah furrowed her brow. "Do what?" "Survive the course," Gaseous Clay exclaimed, his voice a whispery hiss. "The gravity shifts alone should have torn you apart." Sarah shrugged. "It wasn't that bad. I mean, the gravity was tough, but nothing I couldn't handle. And the heat was like a warm day back home." The 3 aliens exchanged glances. "What's it like on your planet?" Blurg asked, leaning in closer. Sarah thought for a moment. "Well, it's pretty varied. We have deserts, frozen tundras, deep oceans, high mountains. The gravity's constant though, not like in the gym." "And you can survive in all those environments?" Krista asked, her crystalline structure shimmering with excitement. "Sure," Sarah nodded. "Humans are pretty adaptable. We've explored most of our planet. The aliens looked at her in awe. But what about the predators? Gaseous Clay whispered. We've heard stories about Earth's wildlife. Isn't it dangerous? Sarah laughed. Oh, we have some dangerous animals, sure. But we've learned to coexist with most of them. Some humans even keep predators as pets. The three aliens recoiled in shock. Just then, Professor Zix Beta approached their table. The alien instructor's skin was swirling with patterns of curiosity and excitement. Ah, Sarah, the professor said. I've been looking for you. I'd wonder if you might help me with something. Sarah nodded, curious. Of course, Professor. What do you need? Well, Zix Beta began, all six eyes blinking in sequence. Your performance this morning was unprecedented. I was hoping you might assist me in calibrating some new obstacles for the class. You see, we need to ensure that the course is challenging for all students. Sarah beamed. That sounds great. I'd love to help. As she stood to follow the professor, Sarah noticed her new alien friends watching her with a mixture of admiration and fear. Don't worry, she said with a reassuring smile. I'm sure Professor Zix Beta will make the course fun for everyone. The aliens exchanged worried glances as Sarah walked away with the professor. Over the next few hours, Sarah helped Professor Zix Beta test a variety of new obstacles. She ran through fields of electrical discharge, swam through pools of acid, and even withstood the crushing pressure of a simulated gas giant's atmosphere. To Sarah, it all felt like an exciting adventure. To Professor Zix Beta, it was a mind-boggling display of endurance and adaptability. Remarkable, the professor muttered, watching as Sarah emerged unscathed from a chamber filled with toxic gas. Simply remarkable. This is fun, Sarah exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. What's next? Professor Zix Beta's skin rippled with a mix of amazement and concern. I think that's enough for today, Sarah. You've given me plenty to work with. As Sarah headed back to her dorm, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She was fitting in, making friends, and even helping a teacher. Maybe being the only human at the academy wasn't so bad after all. Little did Sarah know, her display of Deathworlder abilities was about to change her entire academy experience. The next day's gym class would bring challenges she never expected, not just physical ones, but social and emotional hurdles as well. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Sarah dreamed of obstacle courses and alien friendships, blissfully unaware of the storm of attention and controversy it was brewing around her. The next day, Sarah walked into the gym class with a spring in her step. She was excited to see what new challenges Professor Zix Beta had come up with. As she entered, she noticed the room was more crowded than usual. Word had spread about the Deathworlders' incredible feats, and now students from other classes were packed along the walls, eager to watch. Professor Zix Beta stood in the center of the room, skin swirling with patterns of anticipation and nervousness. Welcome, class, the professor's voice boomed. Today, we have escalated our usual trials. Thanks to our Terran students' assistance, we've prepared some truly challenging exercises. Sarah beamed with pride, oblivious to the looks of terror on her classmates' faces. First up, Professor Zix Beta announced, the Gravity Gauntlet. A section of the floor opened up, revealing a twisting pathway that seemed to bend and warp reality itself. Sarah could see sections where gravity pulled in different directions, sometimes even sideways or upwards. Who would like to go first? The professor asked. The room fell silent. Then, a tentative voice spoke up. It was Blurg, the gelatinous blob Sarah had befriended. I'll try, Blurg gurgled, its body quivering with fear. Sarah gave Blurg an encouraging smile as it approached the start of the gauntlet. Blurg took a deep breath, or what passed for breathing in its species, and entered the course. At first, things seemed to be going well. Blurg's flexible body adapted to the changing gravity, stretching and compressing as needed. But halfway through, it hit a patch of intense gravitational flux. Blurg's body began to stretch in all directions at once, its gelatinous form threatening to tear apart. Oh no! Sarah gasped. Without thinking, She leaped into the course. The class watched in amazement as Sarah navigated the shifting gravity with ease. She reached Blurg, wrapped her arms around its stretching form, and pulled it to safety. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, concerned. Blurg reformed into its normal shape, looking at Sarah with awe. You saved me. But how did you move through that so easily?" Sarah shrugged. "I just did. It didn't feel that different from the obstacle course yesterday." Professor Zixbeda's skin was a kaleidoscope of conflicting emotions. "Well, that was unexpected. Perhaps we should move on to the next challenge." The next hour was a blur of increasingly difficult tasks. The acid rain dash had students running through a downpour of corrosive liquid. The pressure cooker simulated the crushing depths of a gas giant. The radiation roulette exposed participants to various forms of cosmic rays. To everyone's amazement, Sarah completed each task with relative ease. Where other students struggled or outright failed, she seemed to thrive. She emerged from the acid rain dash with only minor irritation to her skin. The pressure cooker made her feel a bit short of breath, but was otherwise manageable. And the radiation roulette. Sarah didn't even notice any effects. As the class progressed, the mood in the room shifted. The fear and trepidation of the other students gave way to excitement and awe. They began to cheer Sarah on, marveling at her incredible resilience. Even Professor Zixbeda seemed to be enjoying the spectacle, the patterns on its skin now showing fascination and pride. For our final challenge, the professor announced, "We have the elemental endurance test. You must withstand extreme heat, cold, and electrical discharge simultaneously." Sarah stepped into the testing chamber, ready for anything. As the temperature began to rise on one side and plummet on the other, she felt the hairs on her arms stand up from the electrical charge in the air. The other students watched, wide-eyed, as Sarah stood in the chamber. Seconds ticked by, then minutes. She showed no signs of distress. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Professor Zixbeda shut down the chamber. Sarah stepped out, her hair a bit frizzled from the electricity, but otherwise unharmed. The room erupted in cheers. Students rushed forward, patting Sarah on the back, careful to avoid her still electrified hair, and bombarding her with questions. "How do you do it? Does nothing hurt you? Are all humans like this?" Sarah, overwhelmed by the attention, looked to Professor Zixbeda for help. The professor's skin was now a solid color of deep respect. "Class," Zixbeda said, silencing the excited chatter. "What we've witnessed today is truly extraordinary. Sarah has shown us the incredible adaptability of her species. But remember, every being has its strengths. Today's lesson isn't about being the toughest, but about understanding and appreciating the diversity of life in our galaxy." As the class dispersed, still buzzing with excitement, Sarah felt a mix of emotions. Pride at her accomplishments, yes, but also a growing awareness of just how different she was from her classmates. She wondered what other surprises her time at the Galactic Federation Academy would bring. Little did she know, her greatest challenge was yet to come, one that would test not just her physical abilities, but her understanding of herself and her place in the universe. The day after Sarah's incredible performance in the Extreme Environmental Adaptation class, the Galactic Federation Academy was abuzz with excitement. Students from all years and departments were talking about the amazing Terran who could withstand anything the universe threw at her. Sarah, however, was feeling confused and a bit overwhelmed. As she walked to her xenobiology class, she overheard snippets of conversations. "Did you hear? The Deathworlder survived the elemental endurance test. I heard she can breathe fire and shoot lasers from her eyes. Do you think she'd notice if I took a piece of her hair for study?" Sarah quickened her pace, trying to ignore the whispers and stares. She slipped into the classroom and took her usual seat at the back. Professor Zilks, a tall, thin alien with iridescent scales, began the lecture. "Today, we'll be discussing the classification of habitable planets and the species that evolve on them." Sarah perked up, hoping to learn more about other worlds. Now, can anyone tell me what a Class 1 planet is? Professor Zilks asked. A tentacled student near the front raised an appendage. It's a planet with ideal conditions for life as we know it. Stable atmosphere, moderate gravity, and abundant resources. Correct. Professor Zilks nodded. And a Class 5 planet. The room fell silent. Then, a small voice from the back spoke up. It was Krista, Sarah's crystalline friend. Isn't that a death world? The professor's scales shimmered with approval. Indeed. Class 5 planets, or death worlds, are environments so hostile that most species consider them uninhabitable. Extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres, dangerous wildlife, unpredictable weather patterns. These worlds are crucibles of evolution, forging species of incredible resilience. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was starting to sound familiar. In fact, Professor Zilks continued, we have a unique opportunity in this class. We have a student from a Class 5 planet among us. All eyes turned to Sarah. She sank lower in her seat, wishing she could disappear. Sarah, the professor said gently, would you mind sharing a bit about your homeworld with the class? Sarah stood up slowly, her heart pounding. Well, I'm not sure what to say. Earth is just home. We have oceans and mountains, deserts and forests. The gravity is constant, about 9.8 meters per second squared. Our atmosphere is mostly nitrogen and oxygen. The class listened in rapt attention. But, Sarah continued, remembering her classmates' reactions to her stories, I guess we do have some things that might seem extreme. We have storms that can level cities, volcanoes that can block out the sun, and animals that can kill with a single bite or sting. Our temperature range goes from below freezing to hot enough to cook food. And our history is full of wars and conflicts. The room was silent, every alien student staring at her with a mix of awe and fear. Professor Zilks's scales were a whirl of excited colors. Thank you, Sarah. You've just given us a first-hand account of life on a death world. The fact that your species not only survives but thrives in such conditions is a testament to the incredible adaptability of life. As Sarah sat down, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time, she understood why everyone had been so amazed by her abilities. She wasn't just another student. She was a living example of evolution in extreme conditions. After class, her alien friends gathered around her. Why didn't you tell us you were from a death world? Blurg asked, its gelatinous form quivering with excitement. I didn't know, Sarah admitted. To me, Earth is just normal. I had no idea it was considered so extreme. Gaseous Clay swirled thoughtfully. That explains how you breezed through the gym class. You're literally built for survival in harsh conditions. Sarah nodded, still processing this new information about herself and her home. So, Krista chimed in, her crystalline structure sparkling with curiosity. What's it like, living on a world that's constantly trying to kill you? Sarah couldn't help but laugh. It's not that bad, really. Humans have learned to adapt. We build shelters against the storms, develop medicines for diseases, and find ways to coexist with the dangerous wildlife. In fact, many humans seek out extreme conditions for fun. We call it extreme sports. Her friends looked at her in disbelief. As they walked to their next class, Sarah felt a new sense of pride in her heritage. She was a Deathworlder, yes, but that didn't make her something to be feared. It made her uniquely equipped to face the challenges of the universe. Little did Sarah know, this revelation was just the beginning. Her newfound understanding of her place in the galactic community would soon be put to the test in ways she never imagined. A week had passed since Sarah's revelation about being a Deathworlder. The news had spread throughout the Galactic Federation Academy, turning her into something of a celebrity. Some students were in awe of her, while others kept their distance, unsure of how to interact with someone from such a dangerous world. As Sarah entered the gym for her extreme environmental adaptation class, she could feel the tension in the air. Professor Zixbita's skin was swirling with patterns of excitement and nervousness. "Students," the professor announced, "today is our final exam. We have prepared the ultimate challenge, one that will test the limits of your adaptability." The class murmured nervously. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. What could be more challenging than what they'd already faced? Professor Zixbita continued, "This test will simulate conditions from multiple extreme environments simultaneously. You will face shifting gravity, temperature fluctuations, toxic atmospheres, and more. Your goal is to navigate through the course and retrieve a flag at the end." The professor's eyes all focused on Sarah. "And to make things more interesting, we've calibrated the course based on Deathworld parameters." A collective gasp went through the room. Sarah's alien classmates looked at her with a mixture of fear and respect. "Who would like to go first?" Professor Zixbita asked. To everyone's surprise, Blurg, the gelatinous blob, oozed forward. "I'll try," it gurgled, its body quivering with determination. Sarah gave Blurg an encouraging smile as it approached the starting line. The course materialized before them, a twisted landscape of obstacles that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Blurg entered the course, its body stretching and contracting as it faced the challenges. It made it through the first few obstacles, adapting to the changing gravity and avoiding jets of acid rain. But halfway through, it encountered a section of intense heat and pressure. Blurg's gelatinous form began to bubble and steam. I can't," Blurg gasped, its voice barely audible. Without hesitation, Sarah sprinted into the course. She navigated the obstacles with practiced ease, her Deathworlder physiology allowing her to withstand the extreme conditions. She reached Blurg and carefully scooped up her friend. "Hang on," Sarah said, cradling Blurg protectively. "We'll finish this together." With Blurg in her arms, Sarah faced the remaining challenges. She leaped over pools of liquid nitrogen, ducked under swinging blades of pure energy, and pushed through a wall of crushing gravity. Her muscles strained, and sweat poured down her face, but she pressed on. Finally, they reached the end of the course. Sarah gently set Blurg down and grabbed the flag, waving it triumphantly. The class erupted in cheers. Even Professor Zixbita's skin was glowing with admiration. As Sarah and Blurg exited the course, their classmates crowded around them. "That was amazing," Krista chimed, her crystalline structure vibrating with excitement. "How did you do it?" Gaseous Clay swirled curiously. Sarah shrugged, still catching her breath. "I just did what came naturally." But the real hero is Blurg. It had the courage to go first. Blurg's gelatinous form rippled with what seemed like a blush. "I couldn't have finished without you, Sarah. You saved me." Again. Professor Zixbita approached, all 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "In all my years of teaching, I've never seen anything like that. Sarah, you've shown incredible strength and adaptability. But more importantly, you've demonstrated the true spirit of this class, using your abilities to help others." The professor turned to address the whole class. "Let this be a lesson to all of you. True adaptability isn't just about surviving extreme conditions. It's about thriving in them and using your strengths to support those around you." As the class dispersed, chattering excitedly about the exam, Sarah felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced since arriving at the academy. She wasn't just the strange Deathworlder anymore. She was a valued classmate and friend. Blurg oozed closer to Sarah. "Thank you," it gurgled softly. "I think I understand now why Deathworlders are so remarkable. It's not just your physical abilities. It's your willingness to face challenges head-on, even when they're not your own." Sarah smiled, touched by Blurg's words. "That's just being human," she said. "On Earth, we have a saying, 'No man is an island.' We survive by looking out for each other." As they left the gym, Sarah realized that she had passed more than just a physical test. She had taken a crucial step in bridging the gap between her Deathworlder heritage and her new life in the galactic community. Little did she know, This experience would set the stage for even greater challenges and opportunities in her future at the Galactic Federation Academy. The day after the final exam, Sarah woke up to find her communicator buzzing with messages. News of her performance in Professor Zixbeda's class had spread beyond the extreme environmental adaptation course. It seemed like the entire Galactic Federation Academy was talking about the Deathworlder who had aced the impossible test while saving a classmate. As Sarah made her way to the cafeteria for breakfast, she noticed the stares and whispers following her. But unlike before, they weren't filled with fear or suspicion. Instead, she saw admiration and curiosity in the eyes of her alien peers. "Sarah, over here," called the familiar voice. It was Blurg, waving a gelatinous pseudopod from a table where Krista and Gaseous Clay were already seated. Sarah smiled and joined her friends. As she sat down, she noticed a crowd gathering around their table. "Is it true you carried Blurg through a field of plasma fire?" asked a tentacled student. "I heard you breathed toxic gas like it was nothing," exclaimed another. Sarah felt her cheeks flush. "I think the stories are getting a bit exaggerated," she said. "I just did what anyone would do to help a friend." Blurg's body rippled with what seemed like laughter. "Don't be so modest, Sarah. What you did was incredible. You showed everyone what a Deathworlder can really do." Just then, a hush fell over the cafeteria. Sarah looked up to see Dean Zorvolta approaching their table, accompanied by Professor Zixbeda and several other faculty members. "Sarah," the dean said, its metallic skin shimmering, "we'd like to speak with you." Sarah stood up nervously, wondering if she was in trouble. "Don't worry," Professor Zixbeda reassured her, skin patterns swirling with excitement. "This is a good thing." They led Sarah to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. Dean Zorvolta spoke first. "Sarah, your performance in yesterday's exam has sparked a lot of discussion among the faculty. We've never had a student quite like you before." Sarah nodded, unsure where this was going. Professor Zixbeda chimed in. "We've been thinking about how to better integrate Deathworlders into our curriculum. Your unique abilities and perspective could be incredibly valuable. We'd like to offer you a special position," Dean Zorvolta continued. "As a student ambassador for Deathworld species, you would help us design courses that can challenge students from high-gravity worlds and also educate your peers about life on planets like Earth." Sarah's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm just a first-year student. I'm still learning about the galaxy myself." "Exactly," said Professor Zixbeda. "Your fresh perspective is what we need. You can help bridge the gap between Deathworlders and the rest of the galactic community." Sarah thought for a moment. "Can my friends be involved too? They've taught me so much about adapting to life here. I think we could all learn from each other." The faculty members exchanged impressed looks. "That's an excellent idea," Dean Zorvolta said. "A collaborative approach could benefit everyone." As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. She returned to her friend's table, where they were waiting anxiously. "What happened?" Krista chimed, her crystalline structure vibrating with curiosity. Sarah took a deep breath and explained the offer. Her friends listened in awe. "That's amazing, Sarah." Gaseous Clay swirled excitedly. "You'll be able to show everyone how incredible Deathworlders are." "Not just Deathworlders," Sarah corrected. "All of us. Each species has its own strengths and adaptations. I want to help create understanding between all types of worlds and beings." Blur oozed closer, its gelatinous form quivering with emotion. "You've come so far, Sarah. When you first arrived, you didn't even know you were a Deathworlder. Now you're going to be teaching the whole academy about it." Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you all. You've been my guides in this new world. Now we can all work together to make the academy a place where every species feels welcome and valued." As they continued their breakfast, excitedly discussing ideas for new courses and cultural exchange programs, Sarah reflected on her journey. From accidentally dominating an impossible gym class to becoming a bridge between worlds. She had found her place in the vast, diverse galaxy. The challenges ahead would be many, but Sarah knew she was ready to face them. With her Deathworlder resilience and the support of her alien friends, she was prepared to push the boundaries of what was possible in the Galactic Federation Academy. As the cafeteria buzzed with excited chatter about the future, Sarah realized that her accidental dominance of the gym class had led to something far greater, a new era of understanding and cooperation in the galactic community. And this, she thought, was only the beginning of an incredible adventure.